Welcome, everybody. It's October. We are Wild Ones Greater Cleveland. Um, we're here for our chapter meeting tonight. I kind of slipped in here to kind of open the discussion about what seed heads are stealing the show in your yard, or berries, or maybe even fall color. Um, does anybody, Ray, do you have anything in your yard right now that looks really nice? That's not like a typical, what we would think of as a pretty bloom?
Well, I've got, uh, I thought the seed heads from Notting Onion were especially attractive. So there's kind of the white flowery part, and then there's those really dark eyes, the seeds that are in them. And so just looking at that seed head of the onion, just really strikes me. Of course, I've been collecting a lot of those seeds so that I can plant some, but
That's good.
they are very attractive. So that's not something you see unless you're lucky or you've planted them.
Yeah, that's true. Does anybody else have any pretty seed heads or good fall color in their yard? Jessica, what about you? She might have stepped away. Allison?
Trying to
Oh,
get off of mute.
that's
Actually, I was
okay.
trying to get a picture for you guys. There's some interesting looking seed heads for my butterfly milkweed that looks like snow. Oh, here's the
Ooh.
picture. Almost like snow. Um,
Although I don't really want to be using that word yet.
We're dipping into the 40s overnight now.
I
It won't
know.
be long.
I'm trying to rush to put in my um red twig dogwood shrubs and some grasses that I want to put at the end of my driveway.
Nice. So Jessica shared a photo in the chat. If you click on it and zoom in, it does look a little snowy. Oh, I like your aster in the background too, on the left.
Oh yeah, it was giant this year. Like I had to cut it back
Uh,
in June, I think. It was taller than me. And yeah, I can't even imagine how tall it would have been because it would have been over 6 feet tall.
Right? That's fun. Does anybody else have anything fun? Sarah or Allison or Jane? I'm gonna pick on you guys.
Well, we put in some low bush blueberries this year, and most things are still pretty green in our yard, but the blueberries are starting to turn a really striking red color. So that's nice.
Nice. Those are lovely for fall color.
I just found some passion flower vine on one of our sites at work. So I was saving the seeds from the passion fruit, the maypops. So kind
Ooh,
of they're fun looking. I'll see if I can get a picture in here, but I'm not the best at that.
that's fun. Does anybody else? I don't have anything exciting at my yard because I just moved and I don't really know. I have invasives that are fruiting right now. Um,
But to say that
so
sounds like a wonderful opportunity to have an invasive removal workshop.
oh yeah, yes. We have burning bush, some barberry, um, Rosa Sharon, pretty much any heavy hitters that like you can't get rid of, we have. So I don't even want to not even bring it up. Um, we do have some, I think, gray dogwood on the side of the house though that has a few berries on it left that look really nice.
Anybody have beautyberry, calicarpa?
Mm-mm.
I just put one in this year, and just in the last couple of weeks, the berries have been changing over from green to purple, fuchsia. It's really outstanding.
Yeah, those are gorgeous. All right. And then here, the image we have, I took this this past Friday. Some milkweed, common milkweed seed pods that are busting out with all their seeds and fluff. So you'll see a few images of that around here. Ooh, Brent put in image in the chat as well. That is that what is that? Do you know? Okay, there we go.
Ah.
That's exciting. That looks cool. It's like a little, it's almost like the I'm thinking Dr. Seuss, like the Horton Hears a Hue, like the little guys, the puffballs.
If I'm not
Um,
mistaken, that stays really fluffy for months. So it can be a nice winter effect as well.
nice. Yeah, that's cute. You can call seed head cute.
Sure.
All right, so here's another fun picture of the milkweed. The red color in the back is some Virginia creeper going up the side of the building. But tonight we have Ray here, who's one of our board members here at Wild Ones Greater Cleveland. He's gonna talk to us about fall keystone plants. So kind of a lot of these things that we're talking about right now. We have our annual meeting and celebration, save the date, some chapter updates, and a few pictures for you from our past events to show you what we were up to, and then a few events that we have coming up here late fall, early winter. So there's some fun stuff planned. So first we're going to talk to Ray, or I guess Ray's going to talk to us. Look at a short list of native perennials that are especially important for late season landscapes. And if you don't know Ray, which I think if you've been around for a bit with us, you've definitely met him before. He's presented for us, very knowledgeable. He's a retired science teacher and botanist, lead designer at Webfoot Designs, certified pollinator steward, certified interpretive naturalist, and serves as an ambassador to the Ohio Wetlands Association, Rotary Operation Pollination, and recently a naturalist. So Ray's just all over the place, and we're very happy to have him on board with us and to have him present tonight. So with that, I will stop sharing again,
Okay.
and you can bring
And
yours
I
up, Ray.
will begin sharing. And okay, so are you? No, I don't want to leave the meeting. Listen.
So the display that you're on now, even though it's full screen, it's presenter view, so we can still see what's coming next. So my advice would be to,
Let me stop share and start over again. And see if I can share the screen I want to share, which is, oh, I chose the wrong screen.
I see it happen a lot, so.
All right, so that should be the planting scene that is I took from our template of presentations.
Yes.
This says connecting people and native plants for a healthy planet. Is that where we are?
Yep, you got it.
All right, very good. All right. Here's another lovely picture of people planting, and I just love these photos that get used so much in Wild Ones. So we're looking at keystone plants for the fall, And so let's move into this here. All right, keystone. If you're not familiar with the architectural use of the word, that's where it originated. And in order to make an arch, you need this keystone that helps to distribute the force of the weight above to the sides so that this opening in a wall doesn't collapse. So the keystone is essential. You know, the Romans did they're attributed with this architectural advancement, and so that is where that word comes from. This stone that is key to making the arch work. So a keystone species, similar that it is essential to make the system function right. Keystone plant species is a native plant that provides disproportionately large ecological benefits. So that's what we're looking at with native plants here. If that plant were removed, many other species would suffer. So keystone plants are often those that support the greatest diversity of native insects, which in turn feed birds or amphibians, reptiles, mammals, you know, the rest of the ecosystem benefits from these keystone plants. They are the backbone of the local food web. And just as important is that irregularly shaped stone at the apex of the arch. And just to see that we're all on the same page with native plants as a part of this whole definition thing. A native plant is one that has traditionally existed in our region without introduction from another area. Native plants are critical to the wildlife that call Ohio home, well, any location home. They've evolved together to exist. And when you get into the ecology of various plants, you sometimes hear about you know, the competition between plants, an arms race. Something wants to be more aggressive, and then something imposes itself and finds a way to fight back about that aggression, or they need a partner to spread seeds, and so they develop relationships to benefit all participants. This is what happens as plants evolve together. And that's why the native plants are so important, is because they've got these long-term relationships. You're going to get a little botany tonight, so you don't need to take notes. If you want to get a copy of this, I've got the whole presentation on a PDF I can drop into the notes, or we can send out somehow, or so don't feel like you have to write things down unless that helps you out. So familiar keystone trees would be things like oaks, willows, native cherries, and plums. Doug Ptolemy wrote a book on Make It an Oak. If you're going to plant any tree, if you only have one tree that you can plant, make it an oak, was his theme. Because the oak trees as a group are such keystone players ecologically that they as a whole, as a caterpillars, then you have birds and other wildlife that you're supporting at the same time. So those are keystone plants, because they play such a big role in the broader environment. Also important are willows. Many of them bloom quite early. Some of the early warm days that happen in winter, they begin to shed pollen, and many of the early rising bees get out on those days and are hungry and depend very much on willows as a keystone species. Of course, cherries and plums have fruit that support a lot of birds and mammals. And of course, the flowers are used for nectar for many insects. So that's the idea of keystones in woody plants, but I want to spend some more time looking at perennials. So here's what we're going to look at tonight. The short list of really important perennials. I have a question though to ask and see if anybody can answer in the chat. I don't know if I can see the chat while I'm sharing my screen and presenting, but I'd love to see people put in the chat the one plant in this list here that is not a composite. There is one plant that is not a composite. Which one is it? And if somebody who can see the chat and sees an answer, let me know.
I'm looking at the chat, Ray,
Okay.
and we have a question that what is a composite? And then someone also said milkweed.
Okay. Well, milkweed is the correct answer. So ring the bell and we have a winner.
That was
here.
Marlene.
Hey, Marlene. All right. So throwing in a little botany during this presentation would be a benefit, I think, to many that aren't sure how to identify a composite. So let's do that. Yes, milkweed is the outlier in this list. All the rest are composites. As shown in this photograph here, that is a typical composite. That's a New England aster. Okay. So let's look at some of this. Next. So here's a profile of a composite, also known as aster or daisy or sunflower family. They're very common, and so that means there's lots of common names. So the makeup of a composite is, as you see here in the photograph on the right, you've got a centered disc, and then you've got petals that go out around it. In the cutaway diagram, you're seeing that there are two different kinds of flowers where there's a bunch of flowers that are all compressed together. And the outer ring are the ray flowers, and the inner part are the disc flowers or florets, if you want to use that language. So there's a lot of botanical language in there, but what it means is that you're really looking at dozens of flowers when you look at this one specimen. So it's not a flower that you're looking at, you're really looking at a composition of many different flowers, thus the name composite. So if you think of a typical sunflower and all of the seeds that show up in the middle, those are all the result of the disc flower. So each disc flower produces a seed, and then the ray flowers are just there to be pretty. They attract the pollinators. So there's the working flowers in the middle that do the job of producing the seed. And then there's the advertising flowers that are the ray flowers along the rim. That's what makes it an aster or a composite. And most of the plants we're going to look at tonight are composites. Or if you prefer asters, I think is more official, but the sunflower family is what they are. Okay. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail with that botany stuff there, unless we're teaching a class specifically in botany. So here we go, goldenrod. You wouldn't think that these are composites, but if you look at the flower structure, it's really very complex. So each of these little spots of yellow along this stem is a composite flower, made up of many. And so if you were to tease apart just one of those flowers, you would find that it produces many seeds. And those are all from the disc flowers. So here's some of my favorites. There's dozens of naturally occurring species of goldenrods in northern Ohio. Here's a couple of my favorites that may be available at some of the nurseries around town. So Rydell's goldenrod. This is more of a flat-topped kind of goldenrod, and it unlike the common goldenrod that is more of a plume, this has a different look to it. It likes wet. So here, this picture shows on the edge of a pond where Rydell's goldenrod is. Okay, a little more botany. Goldenrod here, Solidago SPP period. If you're not familiar with biology protocol, the Solidago is the genus, and the SPP stands for species. So interesting word. Species is written the same and sounds the same whether you're talking about one or many. So it is both singular and plural, which is, English does that kind of stuff. But when you abbreviate it, SPP means more than one species. If you just have SP period, it's a particular species, singular. So you can make it singular or plural if you abbreviate it. Fun little botanical piece of trivia there, I suppose. So Rydell's goldenrod is a really nice addition to a landscape that has a little extra moisture. So you might use that on the edge of a rain garden, for instance. Showy goldenrod, by far my favorite. I would never put the common goldenrod into a landscape. It's just too aggressive. Showy is a much more brilliant show, I think, and it plays well with others. So this is one that I would use. Mostly we see goldenrods in full sun areas, but there are also some species that do well in shade or part shade, and the blue-stemmed goldenrod is one of those. Zigzag goldenrod is another that occurs as a forest understory plant. So if you're looking for something late bloom yellow in a shaded place, consider one of the goldenrods for a little splash of yellow in the late season. So there's my goldenrods. So here's sunflowers, which is a pretty generic kind of name. So the annual sunflower that we get the sunflower seeds from is native to North America. It is annual. It was found and used for food production and oil production. The people who really championed the use of the annual sunflower from the New World for oil and agricultural purposes were the Ukrainians, which is why yellow takes up half of their flag. So they grow a lot of sunflower in that part of the world. So the ashy sunflower, one of my favorites, the Helianthus mollis. I don't know a lot of the botanical Latin, but a little of it is kind of interesting from time to time. The mollis, Helianthus mollis, refers to the fuzzy nature of the leaves. So you see kind of a gray cast to the ashy sunflower. The ashy look is the really fuzzy kind of leaves that are on that. Really nice plant that a little bit tall. I've seen them grow more than 4 feet. So some of these numbers are adjustable depending on location. So ashy sunflower is a good one for full sun, and most of these are best for full sun. Helianthus is from Latin, helios, which means sun, is saying that this is a sunflower, and the smallest part is that it's fuzzy. The second one, the false sunflower or oxeye sunflower, is not helianthus, but heliopsis. Heliopsis means kind of like a sunflower, and the helianthoides means sort of like a sunflower. So it really is saying it twice. It's like sunflower like sunflowerish is what the Latin translates into. Another fine flower. Botanically, the difference between a false and a true sunflower is that if you remember the diagram of the cutaway of the ray flowers, in the false sunflower, the ray flowers actually produce a viable seed. Whereas in the true sunflowers, there is no seed produced by the ray flowers. They're just there for looks. They don't do the biology. So there's a couple of good choices for your fall garden. All right, milkweed, the non-composite in the group. Lots of different milkweeds. These are my favorites. Prairie milkweed, which is also sometimes called Sullivan's milkweed, the Sullivantii specific epithet here refers to the person who found it, couldn't key it out by existing literature, and said, I think I've got something new here, and then submitted it and got to name it after himself, I guess. So Asclepius is the word for, comes from the Greek, a Greek doctor who used medicinal plants, and many of the milkweeds were considered medicinal in some way or another, and so they kind of got tagged with his name. I like milkweed, the prairie milkweed, better than the common milkweed for the way it looks. You know, if you look at those buds in the picture, they're almost as pretty as the full open flower. It's got a nicer color, I think, than common milkweed, and it's not as aggressive a spreader as common milkweed. If you can find it, that's a really good choice. And then there's the rose milkweed. I'm trying not to say swamp milkweed because that doesn't sound as good. But it's the same. Rose milkweed or swamp milkweed is the same thing. And that has a prettier pink, more delicate, smaller flower, although it's hard to say what is the flower. So you're looking in that picture, you're looking at 100 flowers. So it's an umbel, the botanical term that means a cluster of flowers all coming out of the same focal point. But you know, these have longer blooms too than the common milkweed. Very adaptable. I like it in rain gardens, as the word swamp kind of suggests. It's really good in wet places, but it is very adaptable and will grow well in well-drained places as well. And then the really absurdly orange butterfly weed is a nice low-growing milkweed. Still very suitable if you want to support monarchs, they will lay eggs on all of these different milkweeds. So you don't need the common milkweed. I don't use it in landscapes because common milkweed is too aggressive. It'll grow everywhere it has an opportunity to do that. So there are these alternatives for supporting monarchs that you don't have to put up with an aggressive plant. And here's some true asters. New England aster, I think, is probably the most famous, most well-known and readily available. And purple is a great complement. So late season blooms tend to be yellow more than anything else. And to have this, purple flower, interspersed with the yellow is just striking. It's a very tough plant, easy to grow. If you've got a full sun location, certainly be sure and add that to your landscape if you don't already have it. Blooms well into the fall. I still have color. So this says bloom time August to September. Here it is October, and I've still got bloom on New England aster. So it is a great plant for this season. Big leaf aster may not be a go-to plant, but it is very important. It's shade tolerant, so it fits in to places where you may not otherwise have fall bloom. So if you've got a little darker spot in your landscape and you want this little showy, white, certainly a nice contrast to asters, to New England aster, if you're doing that. And the big leaf aster is also a host to the larval form of the pearl crescent butterfly, a very common butterfly around here. But if you want to see more of them, give it a host plant for the larva, and that would be big leaf aster as well as other plants. The calico aster is one that has caught my eye for a long time. It's not uncommon around here. It gets it has interesting color shifts. So the name calico is because of these contrasting color shifts. If you were to look at an individual flower day after day, it may shift from white to kind of pinkish purplish. The disc flowers themselves change colors as they mature. So you've got a little patch of color that has contrasts in it that shift as the season progresses. So it's an interesting plant to have that's kind of a two-tone nature, the white color of the petals and then the shifting reddish, purplish, brownish color of the disc flowers. And there's boneset. Now there's two different kinds that are in northern Ohio commonly, and there's one that's called tall, and then there's one that's called American. So you'd think that the tall boneset was the tall one of the two, and American boneset is the one that's not as tall, but they're practically the same in height. So height is not a good way to tell one from the other because they'll both get up to 6 feet tall. But if you want to tell one from the other, where it grows might be part of that. So the American boneset is more likely to be in a wetter soil environment, and the tall boneset is more likely to be in a drier setting. But if you look at the leaves themselves, you can tell the difference if you look close. So the botanical name for the American boneset is Eupatorium perfoliatum. So the perfoliatum is describing the leaf pattern. And if you can see well enough on that picture, you can see that those leaves are opposite each other and they do not have stems. So the leaf blade itself emerges fully directly from the stem. You can compare that to cup plant if you're familiar with how that is. A cup plant, actually, the leaves come together and form a bowl that collects water. The American boneset does the same kind of thing, just not as on a large scale as the cup plant does. Whereas the tall boneset does have a leaf stem, a petiole. If you can look closely enough to see that pattern, you'll be able to tell the two apart easily at that point. Good combination to have white, yellow, and purple all in the same setting. So if you want to have a fall garden and have boneset New England aster and a showy goldenrod, you'd have an outstanding planting, I think. Ironweed, also an outstanding color for fall. A good way to know that school is about to start up is to see ironweed in bloom. It's time for the marching band to be in practice and getting ready for those first fall football games. A way of marking time and as the season goes. So here we've got Vernonia gigantea, which would tell you that it's gigantic, and then Vernonia fasciculata, not as gigantic in this case. So the one that you're most likely to see growing in waysides and in old fields is the tall ironweed. But if you can find it, this prairie ironweed is much more compact and might be more suited to a border garden where it doesn't need to be, if you don't want it to be so wild and looking, so you can manage it. The tall 5 to 8 feet, I've seen them 8 feet, maybe even more than that. It's a big plant. And unless you're out there in June chopping it back to broaden its growth, you're going to get a tall plant, especially if it has plenty of water. So good plants for the fall garden. Here's another composite. The disc flowers here are on a cone rather than a flat disc, which gives this group of flowers its name, the coneflower. This is, I think of it as a quintessential prairie flower. In fact, the Ohio Prairie Association used a drawing of this flower as their logo. Yeah, if you got a prairie, a natural setting, it should include gray-headed coneflower, or prairie coneflower, it's also called. And then there's the black-eyed Susans, and this is just a few of the plants that often get called black-eyed Susans. There's many of them in the genus Rudbeckia. The Rudbeckia hirta is a short-lived plant. It's often used in seed mixes. If you're going to start a little prairie planting from seed, it's often one of those. It germinates easily. It gives you flowers quickly. Whereas other seeds in a prairie mix may take, the plants may take 2-3 years before they flower. This Rudbeckia hirta is going to be quick. It'll seed itself around, but it may be really dominant the first year you plant the seed and less dominant in subsequent years. But it's a good one to have. Black-eyed Susan, other things get called black-eyed Susan too. The orange coneflower, or the Rudbeckia fulgida, this is why we need the scientific name sometimes, is so that you can, the common names may overlap several species. Often it's the scientific name that clears up some of the confusion with that. So fulgida, very common in the garden center trade. You can find them just about anywhere. A nice bright yellow flower for late summer into fall. Highly recommended for a sunny garden. The brown-eyed Susan, also it can be short-lived, seeds itself around. It can come up here and there. This one, the flower is not quite so large, and if you look at the size of the disc compared to the size of the petals look kind of stunted in comparison to these other pictures. And you look at the whole plant, and the brown-eyed Susans, the flowers don't tend to overlap as much, whereas with the Hirta and Fulgida, the flowers really bump up against each other and overlap. So it's a different form, but they're all gorgeous. And then there is blue mist. I think underused and underappreciated. This is a very tough plant. It looks like the annual ageratum and is in the same family as the annual ageratum. So it's got that really nice blue flower, which is, it's hard to come by this kind of color in plants. It's not that common. I've planted it as a shade tolerant plant. So I've got it on the north side of my house, where direct sunlight only comes first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening during the early summer. The rest of the time it's in shade, and it does remarkably well. So if you're looking for a nice splash of color in a shady place, this does really well. Fills in nicely, so it will take up the room that you give it. But it'll also leap around by seed to other locations. So if you like it showing up in random places, fine. Otherwise, you're going to have to weed it out. But it will tolerate sun as well as shade. Most of the time when it comes up on its own by seed, it's in shady places. But other times I find it in part shade to sunny locations. A great plant. I think it should be used a lot more. Okay, so there's some of your keystones for fall. So fall resources, the seeds are important for supporting migrating birds. The nectar, of course, for the late season blooming plants are essential for monarchs. They've got a marathon flight to Mexico that starts in late summer and into fall. They need nectaring resources. It doesn't have to be milkweeds at this point. They just need lots of nectar. Milkweeds are only important for laying eggs. But nectar is important for continental migration as they head towards Mexico. So if you want to help them out, make sure you've got some nectar resources for them in the fall. And of course, the stems of our perennials are often hollow and provide shelters for overwintering insects. So a lot of the cavity nesting bees that are so important as pollinators will use a stem if they can find it. So if you just can leave some of those stems over winter, you're going to provide habitat for many pollinating bees. And if you do have a garden, or if you do have any of these plants and you haven't done so yet, I just want to plug the Northeast Ohio Native Habitat Corridor. It's free. Get on the map. Show us where your native garden is. And then we've got signs too. If you want to advertise to your neighbors that you've got native plants and you're a part of that corridor, you can participate that way too. And thanks for inviting me to talk about plants. I love talking about plants, as you might have guessed.
Thanks, Ray.
I
Does
will stop
anybody have
sharing.
does anybody have any questions for Ray? I feel like that was a lot of very wonderful knowledge.
I have a question. I was going through the national parks one day, and I know this was actually in Virginia, and they had a sign up saying that they specifically wanted white oaks. And I was kind of curious. You showed the keystone trees, and that there were 6 different
Yeah.
ones. Do you have a guess as to why they would target the white oaks above all others?
Boy, yeah, no, I don't have a good answer to that. Um, my guess is that they had good white oak habitat and that they could be hard to come by. So were they looking for acorns or were they looking for established
They
trees?
were they were they were specifically saying that they needed help planting and getting the white acorn seeds to sprout, and they cited that ducks specifically like to eat the white acorns.
Ducks do.
That's what the sign said.
That's interesting.
And last year, I
Hmm.
tried gathering over 100 white oaks acorns that I had found, and I'll be doggone, not one of them sprouted. And I did know that it had a low germination rate, but I didn't
Yeah.
expect that.
Yeah, I can only speculate, but I think they probably have um, historic records of where white oaks were once very common. They may be uncommon. Um, they may have opportunities, and they may be struggling to grow enough themselves because of a low germination rate. And oaks tend to have uh, on years and off years where uh, some years there just are very few acorns, then other years there's just more than you can shake a stick at.
Thank you.
That's pretty good for a made-up answer, I think.
That was good. I commented, Ray, I don't know if you saw the chat at all, but the difference between like I knew species was both pure plural and singular, but I didn't know that the SP versus the SPP was the difference between the
Yeah,
two. I had no idea. It was a
yes.
great fun fact.
So if you know it's a Rudbeckia something, you know it's a
Right.
black-eyed Susan of some kind, and you want to write it scientifically, you write Rudbeckia SP period. So you're talking about one plant, but you're just not sure what the specific
Which
epithet
one?
is. So you write
Yeah.
SP period. If you're talking about a whole group of black-eyed Susans, then you put Rudbeckia SPP period, and you're talking about that whole suite of plants.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
Yeah. I'm glad I know now.
I've got a lot more trivia where that came from.
Does anybody else have any questions for Ray? I know I had some blue mist flower at my old house that kind of just popped in on its own.
Yeah.
And it was a great, this time of year bloomer that helped fill in some spots. It was nice.
Mhm.
All right. Well, seeing none, thank you so much. And Marlene, we can get you a copy of Ray's presentation for sure. Um, So I'll send you an
Um,
email.
Yeah, let me see if
Um,
I can pop a PDF into the chat.
That works.
That'll be there.
Okay. And also, Ray did a great job mentioning our native habitat corridor at the end of his presentation. And Jessica just put the link in the chat as well of how you can get on the native habitat corridor and to check out the map that we have. We have the interactive map, which I have a picture of that we'll see here shortly. But that way you can visit that website. There we go. Okay. So, some very exciting news. We are actively planning right now our annual meeting and celebration for this winter. Last year we had it in Ohio City. This year we're going to have it in Lakewood. It's going to be the evening of Thursday, December 4th. It's going to be at the Emerald Necklace Marina, which is a Cleveland Metro Parks property. They have, it's in the Rocky River Reservation. They have a uh, little cafe there and also a room that you can reserve for events. So we'll be there in the evening on Thursday, December 4th. So we're still rolling out registration. So that will probably be, I'm hoping, in the next week. So if you are a member of Wild Ones Greater Cleveland, you will be getting that in your inbox. If you are not a member, I would say keep an eye out. We're going to be posting it on Eventbrite, or if you would like, you can always join us and become a member. And that way you'll be the first to be notified when we do have the registration rollout. So mark your calendars because it's going to be a great time. And just real quick, it would probably be a good idea to tell you what we're going to do. We usually recap everything that we accomplished for the year and kind of share a really nice photo reel. We're going to also share our goals for next year for 2026. We're going to have a speaker who we have not announced yet. So that will be when we announce registration. And it's going to be heavy appetizers. It'll be a cash bar. We're also going to do some crafts. We are going to do a native seed ornament, much like we did last year if you were with us. And we were going to add in a few more extra things to match our Wish Upon a Native Seed theme. And we're also going to have some Native Connections bingo to help kind of get everybody in the room like jazzed up to be excited to be there. So it's going to be really fun. And it's always great to see everybody in person and celebrate. So hopefully we'll see you there. We have 8 new members since our last meeting. I always like to check and see if we have anybody on the call so we can give a little shout out. I don't see any names on here, but it's very exciting that we have 8 new members. So welcome and thank you for being with us. And our Northeast Ohio Native Habitat Corridor we were talking about earlier. Actually, one of our Cuyahoga County Regional Coordinator pointed this out, but we have right now currently 216 gardens, which, if you don't know, is Cleveland's area code. So it was pretty fitting that tonight we had to represent our lovely 216. So I added a cute little graphic in here of the skyline for Cleveland. So it's very exciting that we're to these many gardens. And here's the map that I was talking about just a moment ago with all of our lovely gardens and habitats that are registered on the map. So there's a lot of houses on here. It's very excited to see all the connections throughout the community and throughout Northeast Ohio. Look how far we reach. I don't even know what city that is. That's fantastic. And we have people out in Youngstown. up near Ashtabula. Fabulous. So the native seed library that we created that is down in Akron along the towpath by the mussel store is closed for the season. The seed library was installed in July of 2024. We've been stocking it throughout spring through fall the past 2 years. And this past year, Diane Davis, one of our board members, left a little notebook in the seed library to get some messages back from people who passed by. And we got a ton of messages. So here's just a few, of those. Walking my dog, took a few packs. Thank you. Can't wait to watch them grow. One of them was from a photographer who was in Akron for a wedding and went for a walk and grabbed some seeds. So it was a very, very cool idea to see, who's actually stopping by and visiting. And, it's almost like you go to a Airbnb and there's a guest book that you sign. So it was very cool to see who was stopping by. But it is closed. It'll reopen April of next year with some fresh stock. Some volunteer opportunities with us. If you're interested in, making an impact, if you have a little bit more time on your hands and are looking for a good opportunity to volunteer with a nonprofit, we're looking for an assistant social media chair. This is just helping to create some posts or, just provide content to post. We're looking for someone to be an assistant volunteer coordinator. Right now we're pretty slow with volunteer coordinating, but in the spring and summer are busy times. So if you have more time in the spring and summer and want to help us coordinate our volunteers for our tabling events, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. Some recent events we had in Cuyahoga County. We had our sip and share by the fire that Jessica, our vice president, hosted. And she and Diab, our Cuyahoga County regional coordinator, put together a bunch of native plant items that you could eat and drink. I believe Diab brought in rose hips from his yard. There were some pawpaw, some sumac, goldenrod, all sorts of good things. And obviously a fire. I think that's when it was still warm out. I see people in shorts and t-shirts. So, whoops, wrong way. I love this picture, by the way. That's a fantastic picture of all the goodies that were had. We did our volunteer appreciation. This was in Brecksville Reservation. We hung out for the it was late morning, early afternoon. Drank some cider, ate some donuts, and just caught up and talked a lot about our plans for fall and everything. So it was really great to hang out. The weather was perfect. So thank you for all of our volunteers. If you were there, thanks for coming. If not, we missed you greatly. But you should be receiving some happy mail soon. So look forward to that if you've volunteered with us this year. A few events we have coming up. And I can try and drop the link in our chat. But we have a fall hike coming up. And again, this one is being hosted by Diab because it's up in Cuyahoga County. It's at the Cleveland Lakefront Nature Preserve. So it's just a good way to see fall color. And also it's right at sunset. And this picture in the background is a picture of the Cleveland skyline from the nature preserve at sunset. So it's going to be a really good time. to, get out in nature, but it's still cool to be in nature, but also be able to see, that city skyline. And I'm copying the link. Eventbrite. And then we have coming up in the spring, we hosted book club and read Robin Wall Kimmerer's Writing Sweetgrass. And this fall, we are keeping on the theme with the same author and reading her latest book, The Serviceberry. This is in partnership with the Cleveland Public Library, and we're going to be at their Woodland branch on November 8th. And I will post that registration in the chat as well. You are able to sign up for virtual or in person. So if you are coming in person, we'll have snacks available, some coffee, tea, and we're also going to be doing a tree planting demonstration where our community garden chair, Antonio, is going to be showing us all the proper way to plant a tree. So that way it's not too high, too low, the do's and don'ts of planting a tree properly. And then the library was gifted some free native trees. So we're going to be planting a few around the property, which I think is a great connection between reading the book and learning about, the gifts of our native trees and being able to plant them as well. So I think it's going to be really good. The book is quite small, so if you're worried about reading it in time, I think that you'll be okay. It's not a thick one. It's not as thick as Braiding Sweetgrass, so you definitely have time. And we have last year we put on our first inaugural seed swap, and we're going to do it again. I guess it was this year and next year in January. So we're actually going to have two. We're going to have one at the Beechwood Branch Library on Saturday, January 17th. And then we are also going to do one down in Summit County, which we have not booked the room yet, but we will. And we will let you know when that will be as soon as possible. So that way we can hit, various areas within our community of being able to, serve you guys with these events. And it was a great success last year. We had so much fun. We got so many seeds, personally, and, what was left over for the chapter. It was just great company to chat with everybody and see what seeds everybody brought. So mark your calendars for this one as well. I think we do have registration. I don't have it in front of me, but also you can just show up. The only restriction is we ask that you bring native seeds and not annuals or vegetables or anything like that. Although there are some native annuals. The other, and then we can help you label them if you need them to be labeled.
Can I do a seed packing thing here in Lorraine County
Of course, I would love that.
for early January?
Yeah, let's talk about that, Ray.
All right, let's put that on our to-do list.
Love it. Thank you. Look forward for that too. Everyone out west. Out west. You know what I mean. On the west side. So what you can do, I know I saw Jessica drop the link to become a member in the chat. If you're not a member already, we'd love to have you. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We post all the time. Not just our own events, but we post educational posts all the time, let you know about other events going on around town. And tell your friends and your family that, you want them to join with you so you can come do fun things with them. So thank you so much for being here. If anybody has any, questions for the group or any comments for the group, I can open up the floor, but if not,
I
thanks.
have something I'd like to add. I
Yes.
attended the Medina Prairie seed gathering event.
Yes.
And it was very well attended.
Oh, good.
We were able to gather, if you can imagine an empty bird food bag, we were able to actually gather enough seeds to actually fill one of those bags for them. And unlike the Bowling Green event that they had where they burn their prairies, they don't do that there. They just mow them all down, but they need the seeds to replant the following year. So that's why we were out there.
Yeah.
And while I was there, there was a woman from the Brunswick area television, and she wants to do a project with the group in which they would train someone in the group to use all their video equipment, and they would train them on how to do the editing and everything. She would like to see a series in which we go into different gardens and stuff and talk about the plants and anything about the organization. I don't know if there's anyone in the group who is from Brunswick. They say that you'd have to have an actual sponsor, which all that means is a resident from Brunswick recommending that our group be able to use their equipment and even their studios to be able to do these video presentations, and then they'll put it on their cable channels.
That's very interesting. I know, that was one of our co-hosted events with Medina County Parks District, and I did not list it because we didn't have any, I didn't have any photos for it. So thank you for bringing it up. But that is very interesting, and I know one of our board members, Shelley, who led that event, she's not a Brunswick resident, but I know, obviously the Medina Parks has parks in Brunswick, so that might be worth a conversation
Yeah,
with her to see.
it doesn't matter that we would be videoing things outside of the Brunswick area, but it would be for the Brunswick audience and to also to
Oh,
inform about the group that we're out there. And it just if you'd like to, when I did the survey recently from
mhm.
this group, I put all the contact information for Corinne from the Brunswick area television and the phone number and the emails if somebody wants to follow up with that.
Okay.
I did attend their open house, and I'm going to go back there on Thursday, and she's going to show me about the equipment and everything, so I'd be better informed, be able to give you more information.
That would be great. Yeah, I'm gonna drop our email in the chat too, Mary Lou. So if you want to just after Thursday, just shoot us an email directly to our wild ones greater Cleveland at gmail.com to follow up. That would be great. And we're sorting through that survey now. So we'll take a look and make sure that we get that. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's really cool that they want to do feature on, native plants. So I'm glad that other people, the word's getting out and other people are getting interested. So
Well,
that's nice to hear.
interestingly enough, the videographer that was there at the Medina event said she's had her eye on this group for quite some time and has
Oh,
been
wow.
wanting to do something with the group.
Interesting. That's great. Wonderful. Does anybody else have anything?
I just wanted to say how cool it was that we had somebody from the Chesapeake Bay chapter. And I actually think I might have met her when I went to a landscaping workshop in Virginia. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so if we could find her her contact information, I'd love to follow up, but I don't think she's on here anymore. So
Yeah, we can look, we can find it. I'll
Cool.
find it for you, Allison.
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, it's fun when we see other people from leadership from different chapters come on. It's nice. So all right. Well, thanks everybody for being here tonight. We truly appreciate you tuning in. And per usual, if you want to come back and watch Ray's presentation, it will be posted on YouTube. Give us about 2 weeks, I would say. It might be shorter than that, but we have everything up on our YouTube channel. This whole chapter meeting, but then also just the education portion if you just want to rewatch about fall keystone plants. So thanks again, Ray, and we'll see you next month. Thanks, everybody.